Although the Seinfeld series finale is divisive, another episode has a greater controversy surrounding it. After 9 seasons, there's no doubt that many were disappointed by the tone and storyline of the final episode, which felt like it didn't fit with the rest of the popular 90s sitcom. It's not very enjoyable watching Jerry Seinfeld, Elaine Benes, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Kramer, Michael Richards, and George Costanza, Jason Alexander, go on trial, and it's the last episode of Seinfeld definitely isn't as funny or clever as the rest of the show. But even though we all still talk about how lackluster the series finale is, another Seinfeld episode led to even more negative responses, and it's definitely much worse. The Puerto Rican Day caused controversy when it aired. Seinfeld Season 9, Episode 20, The Puerto Rican Day, finds Kramer, Elaine, George, and Jerry facing traffic from the Puerto Rican Day parade when attempting to get back home. Like every other episode of the 90s sitcom, it's chaotic and silly at times, with the characters becoming increasingly frustrated as the story progresses. There are many Seinfeld episodes that don't hold up today, but The Puerto Rican Day generated controversy upon airing, and it was because of one scene involving Kramer. He has a sparkler and lights the Puerto Rican flag on fire. When some other characters point this out, he says, "It was an accident." Things get worse when he jumps on the flag, thinking that he's diffusing the fire. According to the Washington Post, the National Puerto Rican Coalition president, Manuel Mirabal, knew about the episode in April 1998, before it aired, when people were aware of the title. Mirabal spoke to people at Castle Rock and NBC about it and told the Post that it was awful seeing Kramer with the burning flag and that he was worried that the Latinos depicted in the show were very stereotypical, and reminded him of the musical West Side Story. He added that the clothing the characters wore wasn't accurate. As noted by the New York Post, the episode had 39 million viewers, which is easy to imagine given the popularity of Seinfeld then and since. When the episode aired, the show was almost at the end of its run, and viewers were interested to see how the Seinfeld main character's story was going to wrap up. Why The Puerto Rican Day was banned, and how it returned to syndication. As reported by the New York Times, NBC apologized for the episode after the reaction from the Puerto Rican community, along with protests at Rockefeller Center in New York City. NBC then decided to remove the Seinfeld episode from syndication. NBC's public statement noted that they had respect for the Puerto Rican flag and also mentioned that fans are aware of the tone and scenarios on the sitcom. While there is no doubt that the Seinfeld characters are flawed and get into awkward or messy situations regularly, this episode intensely and negatively focuses on a community. However, The Puerto Rican Day was back in syndication in 2002, and when you watch the show on streaming services, it's also available. The New York Post reported that the episode made it back on the air in August 2002, and Columbia TriStar decided it was fine to bring it back because they didn't get a negative response. Many have wondered why the Puerto Rican parade had to be part of the episode at all, and why Kramer burned the flag. While you could say that Kramer always behaves in over-the-top and melodramatic ways, it's easy to see why people thought this episode took things too far. Usually, Kramer's humor comes from his physical comedy and random business ideas, not from ruining a flag that means a lot to a group of people. Several characters are also violent toward Kramer, which was also an offensive part of the episode. Even more upsetting is when Kramer explains this is a daily occurrence in Puerto Rico. What Seinfeld's creators have said about the Puerto Rican Day. In a video about Seinfeld Season 9, George Shapiro, an executive producer on the sitcom, said that people were still upset about the episode when the series finale aired. Shapiro explained that people protested when Jerry Seinfeld performed his stand-up special, "I'm Telling You This," on Broadway and had signs saying, "Jerry Seinfeld is a racist." Shapiro explained that he was getting death threats, it was getting serious, but one night, Seinfeld shook one of the protesters' hands and smiled, and it sort of diffused the whole thing. Jerry Seinfeld said he talked to someone in charge of a Puerto Rican Pride coalition who hadn't watched the episode. Seinfeld said he was told, "We assume that it's offensive." Seinfeld continued, "The only thing the episode was about was traffic," and added, "It had nothing to do with the Puerto Rican Day parade, we just thought it was the funniest of the many parades that they have in New York City that cause these terrible traffic snarls." Based on these comments, it sounds like Seinfeld had no ill intentions when working on the Puerto Rican Day. But looking back on the episode, it's hard not to wonder why the Puerto Rican parade and flag had to be involved at all.